So I'm going to start this podcast off with a joke. Okay. Something I haven't done. It's a joke because it's actually really mean. And in hindsight, I shouldn't have done it, but I did it. But I think you'll find it somewhat comical.
Okay.
So as you know, I used to work at RMS.
Yeah.
And one of the owners of RMS is, I don't know if I should tell you this.
Well, I know the owners of RMS, so.
Well, I'm going to tell you anyways. And if I decide to cut this out, I'm going to cut it out. But
that's fine. Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I love about podcasts. I can edit this. So I went to how I met my wife was actually through an individual that worked up in the graphics design. I went up to the graphic design team and I said, hey, I want you guys to make me a sticker I can put on the back of my truck. I had an old 1990 Toyota pickup, beautiful truck that I lifted a little bit, had decent tires on it, cut the exhaust and angled it right behind the driver's side. I angled it out right behind the driver door, right in front of the tire, right?
Right, the noise maker.
Yes. Oh, yeah. It was horrible. It was so... But I had this truck and I thought it was the coolest truck, little V6 3.0 1990 Toyota pickup. And I had on the back of it said throttle jockey because golf course should be motocross tracks. And I got that because I was introduced to Pure Adrenaline. My uncle is really good friends with Clint up there. And I loved just the mantra of that. And looking at that truck, I was like, I want to switch this up. I need a new sticker. So as I talked to the graphics team, I said, this is something I want you guys to do for me. I want you guys to create a sticker that says, been there, climbed that, now I motor fist. And this was at the prime of when Motorfest was really starting to take off.
There was like a really good kind of,
yes.
What's the word I'm looking for? We were very competitive at the time.
Competitive, yes. There was a very big competition going on between the two.
Right.
And the owner being Brad Ball.
Right. Yep.
I was like, hey, Brad, check out this cool sticker. So he saw it. And this is to credit to Brad. Brad saw it, approached me and said, hey, no, that ain't happening. That's not leaving our shop. I was like, what do you mean? He's like, no, that's not going to leave the shop. He went up and he bought the sticker, and I don't know whatever happened to it. He kept it.
Really?
Yes.
Wow. That's pretty impressive.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty impressive.
He did not want it out of that. He did not want to see that. I have respect for certain people, and that day I had a new respect for Brad. I'm sure he has his name ran through the mud quite a bit, but the very little that I knew of Brad and what he's done and created for himself and the family, it showed me a character that I believe that even though he was part of a company years ago, and now he has his own company that is in direct competition, or at the time was in direct competition, he had the integrity to say, no, this isn't something that I believe in. And that goes back to what we were talking about when we first started, or for really just talking, that integrity is so important when you are trying to work with a company. And it opened my eyes to better my relationships with companies that I believe in and want to be part of. RMS was one of them at the time, for sure. I would bleed for RMS. I loved RMS, and they gave me the opportunity to go ride dirt bikes every single day with some of the crew there. I loved it. And now years and a decade later, I get an opportunity to talk to one of the best companies that worked with RMS at the time that I was there. I mean, the relationship is still there with you and RMS because you guys are down the street from each other. But I have Dustin Pancheri. Pancheri, man, that's terrible.
Yeah. No, that's all right. It's Italian, and if you sound it out, it says Pancheri, but it's Pancheri. Yep, and everybody slaughters us. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, for sure. But I'm stoked because you're part of Klim, and you're here, and Klim has a reputation of integrity that I'm very aware of, and most others are aware of as well. Top-notch gear for the sledding industry and for the dirt biking industry, for sure. And adventure stuff. I mean, look, just behind you, you have full face helmets, you have adventure helmets, you have all sorts of gear that works really well for all riders. So yeah, the kind of joke thing, breaking the ice a little bit to get you introduced. Stoked that you're here though. Really.
Yeah, thanks. It's exciting to be here. And the joke is the first thing I thought of. It's like, as we came up in our careers, we all had some pivotal lessons we had to learn. And we can look back on some of them and they're funny, right? And for those of us that lived through, some of that real competitive nature of Motor Fist and Klim, it brings back some awesome memories. But then, for you and also for me, I mean, there was those times when we learned, how to have better integrity and how to respect our competitors and things like that. And so, I mean, it's a cool story. It's a funny story, but it's also got a really cool, lesson and meaning behind it as well.
Yes.
So,
yes.
I'm glad you shared it. That was awesome.
Yeah. That you're, now that probably everybody, depending if I keep this in here, you're one of the very few that I've actually shared it with. So
really?
I haven't told a whole lot of people about it. Not that I kept it secret on purpose.
Sure. It was probably not relevant to a lot of people. So
it is.
For us, we can relate to that though. Yeah,
exactly. Because you're part of Klim. So I thought it was super funny. I was like,
that's awesome. No, I'm really glad you told me. If I ever see Brad, I'll have to mention that.
If he remembers it. I am trying to think of that guy's name that made it for me. Because when I told them, they were like, they all kind of laughed and they always, or they would lift like the one eyebrow and just kind of look at me when I came into their office. I just can't think of the guy's name that did it for me, but Casey.
I don't know who did the graphics there. I wish I could help you there, but I'm not sure who did it.
Yeah, they'll tell you. There's a lot of moving pieces in the background that people didn't see. Not a bad thing.
They grew so fast though. I mean, that kind of happens, right? Yeah. Like you're trying to build a system and you've got a strategy and you've got to build it all kind of at the same time. There's a lot of moving parts. And I do kind of remember that, going through some of those changes as they were growing, because it did happen really fast, almost overnight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And now, I mean, they're kind of at a cool place now where they do really well with their machineries and people moved on.
They do a really good job. Yeah.
Yep. So let's have you drop, like, what do you do with Klim?
So, man, responsibilities, there's a lot that goes on, a lot that I get to be involved with. I guess official title right now is athlete and sponsorship manager. But that gets me involved in a lot of different things, mainly in the marketing department, building relationships with athletes, companies, media, sponsor, other companies that we use, that we network or we partner with to do marketing. It gets us involved with, product development, what we want the product to look like through working with the athletes and getting feedback from consumers. The direction of the marketing for the company, there's just a lot of, I would say, contributing moving parts, like you referred to before, that I'm fortunate to be involved with, and it's really fun. It's really rewarding to see the whole process work, and see how the athletes get to be involved in that, and then, see the finished product and see consumers wearing it and get the feedback and start it all over again. It's really interesting.
Yeah, I like that. What you're telling me though, and I want people to hear this, you're a manager that works essentially marketing, and you've used the word athletes in there. So when you sponsor an athlete, what do you expect in return from that sponsorship? What's the intended ROI?
Well, at the end of the day, if you look at it from a business perspective, the intended ROI is sales. Money is what makes the world go around. It's what makes the business continue to succeed and grow. And so we depend on our partners, athletes being some of them, to help us sell product. And they're a representative of that product and of our company. And so part of that ROI is how they represent themselves, how they help us build the brand, how they help themselves build their brand, and we do that together. It always has to be a win-win situation, right? So an ROI is going to be on both sides. But as long as we're continuing to help one another grow and create sales, I think that relationship has some form of ROI.
Yeah, 100%. And that's why you work with these companies, because they are individuals and brands, right? So they're able to get in front of a very specific crowd. At least that's the goal. That's their plan, is getting in front of a certain audience. If that means that you're having Keith Curtis on the slopes of Jackson Hole, running up and down, being the king and wearing climb gear, to him taking off and riding his Sherco dirt bike, still wearing climb gear, and being in front of an audience that's actually watching him race, like two different places, two different times of the year. Yeah. But he's still getting that product in front of the right audience.
Yeah, he's able to put our product in front of multiple audiences. He's building his own audience, for one. He's creating his own brand. He has created his own brand, and he's got that following. But then he's also reaching out to the hard enduro audience via their avenues, via their communication, and through the backcountry riding and snowmobiles and the hill climb competition, the competitive side of Rimshaw. And so he's appealing to multiple audiences, and that, every audience that he's appealing to adds to his ROI.
Yeah, I like that. I think that's the first time I've heard somebody say that on the podcast, where you've made it known or put it out there that the reason why these athletes are making money is because they're helping getting your product in front of an audience. And because they're able to do that, then they build their own brand, or as they build their own brand and get your product in front of an audience, that they can build, or they can create an ROI for themselves. And that's exactly why it was so important to have you come on the podcast, to have people hear the reasons why a company would even want to go towards that, and why they hired you. Hired Dustin to come on board and work with their athletes, because they need to continue this return on investment with their assets, right? These guys are assets to you.
Yeah, they're assets, they're partners. And it's really relationship based. You and I talked a little bit earlier about, you've got to have a relationship, you've got to have a communication, you've got to be able to know the company that you're dealing with and understand their values and their culture and what drives them and the directions that they're heading and all that, to make sure that this partnership is a good fit, right? And I think at the end of the day, you used the term manager before. Okay, on paper, I'm a manager, but really we build relationships, and we make them mutually beneficial relationships. And so I don't ever feel like I'm working with somebody in a manner that it's a management situation. We're negotiating, and we're talking, and we're understanding what each other's needs are. I need to understand what their needs are, and vice versa. And we make it work so that it helps us both build our brands. They're operating at a business too. Keith, what he does for a living is a business. And so he has to have an ROI. We have to have an ROI, and we understand that, but it's the unique thing about this industry is it's very passionate driven. And so this lifestyle allows us to do what we want. It's almost not a job. And so, yeah, it's a business. Yeah, we have to talk about the ROI. Yeah, we have to make sure we're maintaining the relationships. But for most of us, we're just doing what we love. And so, yeah, management's an official term, but for us, we're building relationships. That's what we do. The marketing side of it is really about building relationships. Even the end consumer, where we want to build a relationship with them. And we try to pick athletes that have the ability to do that.
Right. You wouldn't be showing up to events if you guys weren't willing to build relationships and meet customers, be a face at these events and actually talk with people, make sure Smasher gets his butt out of bed and gets over there to these events so he can meet and greet, which we all know Smasher would be more than happy to do that.
Yeah. He won't have a problem getting excited to go talk to somebody, I don't think.
Yeah. I love that guy.
Yeah. He's awesome.
He cracks me up. So having great individuals like Smasher, Keith, Aaron Case, man, there's so many, even Max Gersten,
yep.
At a point, right? So no, that's right. He moved currently over to you guys because you guys just did a ride together not too long ago.
So he was up at the Kellogg Hard Enduro up at Silver King. He's been traveling with that Hard Enduro, seeing the series and doing commentating, which he's a great personality for that.
Yes.
We've had a long relationship with Max over the years. When he was on beta, and we just kind of, as his career has changed and he's grown and he's kind of diversified and adapted to the changes, we've been able to do the same thing with him. And he's a pretty good example of how to adapt with the changing times from a marketing perspective and digital media versus in-person events and things like that. He's continued to grow, and now he's doing this commentating thing where he rides the course and talks about how hard it is because he's a pro, and it's a really neat perspective. Something that I don't know that a lot of people have done, but because of the times we live in the digital age, we can see it almost real time. Yes,
absolutely. They have that event coming up this weekend over here in Pennsylvania. That are you guys going to have any representation over there besides? I'm sure Keith is going to be there.
Keith will be there. Yeah, he's leaving tomorrow.
Yeah. So I live 2 hours from there.
Nice.
Yeah. So I was actually, who was I talking to? I was talking to, I don't remember who I was talking to this week about it, but somebody mentioned it to me and they said, oh yeah, it's happening this weekend. And I was like, it's happening this weekend. Cause they just had, I think, 2 weeks ago, a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, they had one in Pennsylvania, and this place is like 20 minutes another direction. So they're having these same two events almost back to back. And I missed the other one because it's on 4th of July weekend. The other one, though, I'm going to be able to make it out there, knowing that there's a lot of top athletes out there. It's an opportunity for me to go out and actually chat with them and become face or make face for the company. And that's kind of what, back to what we were saying, that's what some of the obligations that you put on yourself when you want to represent a company and be a part of their company. You need to be a face everywhere you go. Even if it's not on camera, you got to be careful of how you present yourself and how you act, and make sure you do represent the kind of gear that you wear. Like we went to an event a little while ago. We work with Liat. We love Liat. And then we went to an event, and Aaron, he shows up in this Liat shirt. And I'm like, oh, that's a pretty cool shirt. And as we were chatting, he's like, no, this isn't just a shirt. This is actually a jersey. This is a mountain biking jersey. And it was extremely soft. Anyways, there's all great cool things about that specific jersey, but it looked like a regular t-shirt. So he was repping something that he really enjoyed wearing all the time. And that's the point. When you become an ambassador, an athlete, a representative of a company, that's the thing you do consistently on and off camera. You shouldn't be repping, or shouldn't throw your shirt off after you get off the camera because you just did it to make face, but rather you should be doing it because you believe in that company. And that's those relationships that you build with them. That's why companies like building relationships. It's long-term. It's not short-term at all.
Yeah, ideally it's always long-term because you invest in each other. You don't want to start over. You don't want to lose that investment. And the longer, we learn things about each other that help us continue to, I would say, help each other and grow and utilize each other's, what each other has to offer. Short-term relationships seem like they don't do that as well. And so for us, our goal is always to build a long-term relationship. But, you hit on a point that has been a really hot topic. You kind of touched on it a little bit, and maybe I'll broaden it. And that is, how you're representing yourself and when you're representing yourself. The digital age has really made it so that we're being pretty transparent with our lives, right? And the push is social media and using the algorithms to your advantage and figuring out, how to get as much reach as you possibly can. And so people are trying to be aggressive with what they post often. But I think one of the things that we're starting to see that we have concerns with is how companies want to be represented as far as, integrity and, are you riding in legal areas? Are you riding areas that aren't legal? Are you, poaching a line you shouldn't be on? Are you showing that you're, going off trail? And some of that stuff is really starting to become an issue, but it really all goes back to that general, what you talked about a second ago, was how you represent yourself. And we watch that stuff. we look at what's going on behind the scenes. Is that person thinking about the side effects or the negative effects that can be had from, having a trail sign there or whatever, and going off the trail to hit a little hill climb or things like that. That all is taken into consideration. And that wasn't as big of a deal before the digital thing. So I think as we adapt with representation and sponsorship and things like that, people need to understand that when you're putting your life, in the palm of somebody's hands on their phone, you're offering up a lot of transparency, that you have to be really careful with what you're showing and what you're doing, if it's setting the example or if it's not setting the example.
That's a good point. That's an excellent point, because that's definitely something I've saw. I know I have a handful of friends that do that kind of stuff too. And I'm like, I don't understand why you're doing it. I see the two sides, or like, yeah, it's a great place to go train, and it's secluded where nobody else is going to be riding, but you're still doing something that is illegal and has been detrimental to our industry, especially in the West, where most of the public land that you go ride on is public land, and it can easily get shut down by the government.
Well, we're fighting that big time. We're fighting to keep stuff open. And
exactly.
So if I have a representative of my company that's out there that I want to market and post, but at the same time he's doing damage on the back end because he or she is not representing things in a way that the power sports industry would like to see, and they're counterproductive. So it's it's not that deep of a concept, but I do believe it's something that has to be understood and brought up a lot more, because we're starting to see things where we have to consider, all right, do we really want this person to represent our product? Because the perception is they're riding in an illegal area, or they're doing something illegal or whatnot, or it would have a negative connotation to it.
I thought it was interesting. So at Heydays this last year, I went out, I wanted to go talk to Ashley Chaffin.
Chaffin, yep.
Chaffin.
Yep.
Chaffin. Sorry, Ashley.
You're good.
And as I was like trying to find her, I was talking to some of the other reps, and they're like, "Oh yeah, she's actually getting recorded right now." I was like, "What do you mean by getting recorded? You guys are shooting like little B-roll things for the event?" She's like, "No, actually, we're joining in with the other companies of these manufacturers, and we're creating videos joined together of how we need to represent our industry better, and how we need to actually come together and do a better job at riding on the trails and not causing havoc, not creating a bad image of us towards outside people, and even towards the government. We're correlating together to make this a better place for more families to come in, more families to want to ride, and again, to grow the industry and stop getting things shut down like they have been because of miscellaneous individuals that, or mischievous is a better word, mischievous individuals are out doing whatever they want up their shenanigans. Some, unfortunately, are ignorant about what the laws are, and that's just a fact because they don't educate themselves on it. It's common for sure if you don't really push yourself to know the regulations and what you should be doing when you go ride trails, instead of just slapping a sticker on your bike and then going out and ride, or your sled. But knowing the exact laws and rules and regulations in the area. There's so many places you would attest to in Idaho that have been some great riding areas that are now dug up, and they've destroyed the trails. So you can't go ride them anymore because the Forest Service can't maintain it. They're being abused, and they are shutting them down because there's just they just don't feel that they can maintain all of them when there's that amount of mischief that goes on, causing problems with other people out there, not being good stewards of and respectful towards hikers, backpackers, other action sports enthusiasts. And so it's great that a company is very conscious about that as well. And that's what also makes a good ambassador, a good athlete, good enthusiast to work with a company, be a sponsored individual. So it's good you brought that up and shared that. It's important to know. For sure.
Yeah, we hope everybody else will join in with that. I mean, we know a lot of other companies are making that a point as well. I mean, part of being in the industry is, we need to grow our company, but we also need to elevate the industry as well, right? So you made a great comment about some of the OEMs. They all joined together and created a informational video trying to help reduce some of maybe the naive actions of the few who had compromised areas, contributed to getting them closed down or losing some of our riding areas. And it's happening on the snowmobile side in the East and the Midwest. A lot of those trails go across private land. And the landowners, they get tired of people going off the trail and tearing up fields or making loud noises. And so they shut the land down, and then they lose that trail. And then similar thing happens out here with motorcycles, snowmobiles, ATVs. UTVs are becoming a big concern as well. And so it's something that we as a company are very conscious of. We've been trying to create events and opportunities to give back to the industry, the cow tag in the summer, the frozen cow tag in the winter, raising funds to protect trails or donate to trail maintenance or developing new trails or, good trail stewardship. And from a sponsorship and an athlete standpoint, as a company, we expect them to contribute to that, to be good stewards, to help us with those events. That's something that we look at when we're identifying those people that we feel like would gel with our company, that would represent well, is how do they give back to the industry? How do they represent themselves and contribute to clubs and, all the opportunities that they might have to be a good steward.
I love it. Love that, dude. I love how you're sharing all this and these aren't secrets, but these are mandatory. How do I want to put this? These are mandatory lifestyle.
They're concepts that I don't think get talked about a ton.
Yeah.
So I think as a company, we would like to see it talked about more and people recognize it more and kind of change the attitude. It's a mindset, and we need to help. If somebody's really interested in becoming a professional athlete or becoming someone that's sponsored, they're doing it for a living, or they're trying to grow their ability to work with companies, and that's hopefully they're taking that into consideration and adapting their mindset to that.
Mm-hmm. I like that, dude. Let's pivot a little bit. First though, before we do, cow tags.
Yeah.
Where did that come from? Where did that term come from? And what does it mean?
The cow tag?
Yeah.
John Summers, I think, was the one that created that. We have lots of ranches here in Idaho. We're a rural area. I grew up on farms, and my family has a dairy. And the cow tag thing, is literally a tag that hangs from a cow's ear to identify it, right? So it's an identifying object. And so we thought, well, let's use the cow tag as something to identify a point in the forest, and let's place them all over and kind of create a competition to go find these, and we'll make them worth points, and we'll use it as a way as a fundraiser type thing. So we got with a bunch of our partner companies, and they kicked in product. They donated product. In the first couple of years, Honda gave us a full bike that we raffled off. And so participants could sign up and pay a fee to come participate. We'd feed them. We used the funds that they signed up with to eventually donate back to trail stewardship and protection and development and things like that. And then people were motivated to come ride and have a good social event and see some good country and win some prizes afterward at raffles. And it was just a win-win for everybody, right? The industry got together. And we had 20, 30, 40 companies donating product for the prizes at the end. And there was a couple of years. I think everybody that came to the cow tag got to walk away with a prize. So, they paid a little bit of money, but they had a lot of fun, and we were able to donate. I think one year we donated almost $30,000 back to some trail organizations and things like that. Idaho Falls Trail Machine Association, and then Idaho State Trails. And then now we've been working with AMPL, Blue Ribbon Coalition, Share Trails, all those types of companies. And it's just, it's riders giving back. We're fortunate to be able to do this stuff. And so we just tried, the cow tag event was a way to get everybody involved, motivate people to get involved and make a positive, have a positive influence.
That's super dope that you guys have done that for that reason. I just thought it was so fascinating. It's like cow tag. I heard about it a couple of years ago, and I considered renting a sled and going to do doing it, but just circumstances didn't work out. So
well, come out and do it with us. We've got spare bikes and we got spare snow bikes. We'll throw you in the mix and see how many cow tags you can find. It's a good time. And there's a competitive aspect to it too, because we'll put these cow tags all over the place and we'll make them worth different number of points. So the harder they are to get to, the more points they're worth. So you got to strategize like, okay, I'm going to try to get to the furthest ones away, but now I know they're going to take longer. They're worth more points, but I'm going to miss these other ones. And so like, there's these, like they'd break up into teams and have a strategy. You know, I mean, it was really entertaining actually to see like what they were going to do, or some people they'd get all the close ones and not try to go get the difficult ones. And so there was an added element of competition there that made it a lot of fun.
Yeah, no, that does. It sounds like a lot of fun. I'm curious because I really see how snowmobiling, I don't know, I would say it's easier, but it's like, because you can use your advantage setting these tags way far away or in different places, because you can get your sled up there to place them, and then you send individuals out to go find them and do that. So you can make it extremely difficult to do. But during the dirt season, you stay on certain trails. Like you're on
the marked trail. Yeah,
exactly. You can't just take off and go, 4 miles to the southeast. No. You literally have to go hit some switchbacks. And I saw a picture a while back on your social media that you had like a line of people helping up the switchback that was fairly steep. It was like a steep switchback. And I was like, where the heck is that? I have never seen that. It's up Dry Canyon.
I was there actually.
Wow.
There's a funny story about that one. I'll have to tell you. He might get mad at me if I throw him under the bus. Well, he posted the picture of the video, so I'll do it. So the first year we did that, we had a bunch of industry people. We were trying to get up those switchbacks up Dry Canyon. And I mean, they're gnarly. Like, yes, there's no trail. Like, there's a trail, but it's on like the side of this rock. And so you're doing everything you can to kind of keep traction. And then you have to do this 180 switchback and not slide down, and you still got to try to, traverse up it. I mean, it's hard enduro style stuff, right?
Right.
We had all these industry people, and I was the second guy in line, and so I stopped to help some people. The guy in front of me didn't make it, so I stopped. I walked up, I helped him get his bike around, and then I'm like, well, lots of people are going to need help. I'll just stay here and help everybody, and then I'll walk down and get my bike at the end. So the end comes, and Brock Butters. He's a snow bike ambassador for Timber Sled, and for us, and, great guy, does a lot for the industry. He's like, hey, dude, I'll just hop on your bike and ride it up to you. And I'm like, oh, sweet. Thanks, man. Well, he gets to the first switchback, and I don't know what he did, but somehow he like whiskey throttles this thing, and it's a drop off, and he literally shoots my bike off the switchback 60 or 70 feet through the air and down into the trees in the creek. And all of a sudden we just hear this like metal crashing and just like trees breaking off. And then, it's in the abyss. Like we can't see the bike at all. And I can see the look on Brock's face, like, what have I done? And to make it worse, it was a factory edition KTM.
Oh,
so I was like, my pretty Red Bull graphics are smoked now, right? So long story short, we all teamed up and we tied jerseys together and we hiked down this cliff, and tied it on. And like an hour and a half later, we got the bike back up, and it was banged up a little bit, but not as bad as it really could have been, right? And Brock felt horrible, but his GoPro on his helmet was on, so he got the whole thing on GoPro. So and you hear him say a colorful little word as the bike's like flying through the air. I mean, it was the most entertaining thing like we could have ever seen. And we look back on it, it's funny now, but at the time I was like, oh crap, what are we gonna do? We got to get this bike out of this canyon. And that was my bike.
Yeah, yeah. I saw pictures of that bike too when you got it. I was like, wow, that's a beautiful bike.
Yeah. Oh, it was one of my favorite bikes ever. Like I was like, the factory edition's like everybody's dream bike or whatever. But no, it was all kinds. I mean, that's just an example of all kinds of fun stuff that always happens at the cow tag. Every year, there's always a story, that comes back, and yeah, good times.
Yeah, that's this being out here in the East. Like here in Jersey, you can't ride like that. It's private property throughout the whole state, and then places that are public are for hiking and mountain biking. Like I guess you could ride a dirt bike on the trails or on the dirt roads, but you need to be extremely or very licensed. And it's just not the same. And Idaho is becoming popular. We all know that. But there's so much good riding out in Idaho. It is beautiful there. Oh, that's cool. That's great to know. I mean, that's definitely something that for more people to go and participate in listening to the podcast, that's an awesome opportunity to get more people to go out and participate in for a good cause, get the opportunities to get the trails open up even more. You guys even go through and cut the trails, make sure that the trails are open, cut the logs, make sure they're all cleared, right?
There's a crew. We did a lot of it. We did it ourselves the first year. And then as the trail club started pitching in, they've actually kind of taken a lot of that over. They do a really good job of helping us out with that. And, one of the things that we learned really fast was the ride got popular, the event got popular to the point where like we were going to do damage to the trails if there were so many people. And so we actually are we capped it this year at 200 participants just because it doesn't do any good to hold an event where you're doing a fundraiser to promote trail stewardship and then go tear the trails up. Right. And so we learned we had to be responsible with how we did that. And I don't know, I think it made it even more of an exclusive event because we capped it at 200. And so it's like, you got to be quick if you want to get signed up, or you don't, you have to wait till the next year or whatever. So it's growing.
The guy I was telling you about that I interviewed from Australia, he was telling me about some of the events that because he actually is an event organizer in Australia for hard endurance. Super nice. Cool guy. Yeah. I mean, somebody for you guys to connect with. Super, super great individual. So I'll give you his name after the podcast.
Yeah, I would love to connect.
He was telling me that they have those hard enduro events, and one of the events this year got booked. I think it was like 200 people. Said he got booked in 24 minutes. And doors. Wow. He said that's how fast the
awesome.
positions like got sold. Yeah, it's incredible to watch hard enduro and what it's been bringing to the light for everybody in like here in the US and across the world. It's been really cool. And I think more and more people are interested in it because I will attribute that to Pastrana and what he did when putting it on the big screen for everybody to actually see Romaniacs and Erzberg. I believe that really put it on the map for us over here. And now we've really like, hey, this is actually kind of cool. When you already had guys like Webb and Haker and Larson and a bunch of them that were already interested in this, they were participating for years and years. It just was not very well known. And now it's like
we didn't publicize it very well over here. We had guys going across the pond to do it, but it wasn't really getting the press in that sense changed. Obviously.
Yes, it has done quite a bit. Now we have great events like we were just talking about last weekend, the weekend before, this coming weekend. I think TKO is here in a little bit too. So
yeah,
a lot of great opportunities. But pivoting, now that we have that, pivot further, I want to know a little bit more about your history. And I want you to share more about who you are and where you kind of came from to the point you've been working with Klim. You've been with Klim for I could be wrong, 10 years?
10 years almost. Yeah, not quite 10 years. Yeah.
Yep. So from what I gathered, it was about 10 years, give or take. But you've been with them for a decent amount of time. But you have a history of other places that you've worked at. So how did you actually start working with Klim? And did you actually start in the position you're at, or did you work into this position?
No, I've had a couple different positions here. And I've actually been involved with Klim for longer than I've worked here full time. I was fortunate enough to be friends with the founder and the marketing director, John. And, we'd ride together, and I'd help him with photo shoots. And sometimes we'd be at all the same shows together. And so we'd, hang out and go to dinner and help each other clean our booths up and things like that. So I'd worked in the industry previously and built a relationship in that direction. And eventually, it was kind of time for me to I guess give myself a new challenge, so to speak, and try something different. And so Klim had made me an offer a couple times actually, and the position was intriguing, and I thought, heck, let's give it a try and see how it goes. So that was a sales manager position. Did that for 5 or 6 years, and then moved over to the marketing department, and now I do athlete and sponsorship stuff, and I really enjoy it. But
that was all because it was a challenge, something that you wanted to challenge yourself on. That's why you stepped into that.
To a point, there were some things I felt like I needed to learn, and with the position that they'd offer me, it would give me the opportunity to learn some of those skills and grow in a couple of different areas. And you never know, open some doors and things like that. And so it was it's always a tough decision. I came from Starting Line Products before that. I worked there for 18 years. I started there when I was a kid, and I love that company. Those guys are just as genuine, and they're just old school farmer, hard work ethic, make it happen, innovative. And I grew up working there, and I worked my way through that company and learned a ton. Those guys were great mentors, still are. I still have just an amazing relationship with Jerry and Alan over there. And I kind of got to a point where I felt like if I wanted to continue to grow, in a business and personally and in the industry, I needed to maybe do something a little bit different. And then that's when Klim kind of, that door opened as well. So it was a tough decision because I loved what I did. I loved working at SLP. I got to test, and I got to work with great customers and dealers and travel, and the people there were great. And it's hard to walk away from that,
Yeah.
But,
yeah. I can imagine. Did you know that one of Smasher's best Instagram posts is Starting Line product pipes?
The twin pipes.
Yeah. From last year.
Yep. The sound. Yeah.
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 He's like, he posts it and he's like, it's just the sound of the pipes. And then it like blows up and he's like, what?
I think he called me one time. He called me one time, and I answer the phone, and I don't even hear Smasher. All I can hear is just these high-pitched twin pipes playing in the background, just, wow. He's just, and I can't. I'm like, hey, what's going on? Are you there? Are you there? Are you there? And he's just playing the sound, and then he just hangs up. And that was it. I'm like, yeah, good chat. Thanks for that. He loves his twins. He does.
Yes. Oh, thank God. He's so funny. I love Boondock. They have some great guys over there, and Smasher makes a lot of fun.
He's pretty entertaining. Yeah,
he is. He's great. And I'm proud of what he's been able to accomplish and what he's been doing. I really am. Do you know why or where the name Klim came from?
I do, actually. Yeah.
Good, because I'm trying to remember if I've heard it. So go ahead.
Well, there's lots of weird rumors floating around about it, and it's always fun to hear them. So you almost hate to tell people why, because you're like, oh, you don't want to smash the rumors. It's kind of, there's some really funny things, milk backwards, and all kinds of
that's right,
crazy acronyms or whatever. No, it actually is. It has a marketing purpose. The name has a marketing purpose, and the story I've been told is that Justin wanted, he had been taught through some marketing programs when he was going to college, certain aspects of branding. And one of them was, a 4-letter word, catchy, unique, has to have a unique look, a unique sound. And because they were snowmobilers that were climbing mountains and things like that, they wanted something that kind of represented what we do and what our brand is about, and the harshness of the conditions and things that we ride in, we experience. And so the word climb was kind of had that harshness, that representative to it. So we changed the spelling, and made it unique. And it kind of met the criteria of those things that they'd been taught from a branding perspective and a marketing perspective. And that's how it was created.
I'm going to stick with the milk one. Milk backwards.
It's a little more entertaining, isn't it?
Yeah, no.
There's actually a milk brand I've been told, in the UK, in England, called Klim.
No joke.
And we have people confuse us with it. If you wouldn't, I don't know how you can confuse us with milk, but yeah.
It's interesting. How fascinating. I know the Klim's been around for
23 years.
Yeah.
99, founded in 99.
Okay. So almost 25 years, coming on 25 years here in 2 years? We'll be in 25 years.
Yeah.
I remember it was the late 90s, or in the 90s is when I remember when it was founded. So yeah, that's cool. Now with your position, you've also been given opportunities to go and test more products. Like you've been on Snow Tech magazine as a test rider, and you've been able to be featured on a couple, covers and inside of the magazine itself. Is that during your Klim time only, or has that been with SLP as well, or both, or just SLP?
That started when I was at SOP. There's actually a funny story that kind of helped me get started there as well. But I've been involved with those guys for 14 years. I still currently work as a mountain test rider for Snow Tech. That's kind of a side gig. It's neat because it does provide some additional opportunities in the industry, some insight and some things like that, and been able to generate a lot of neat relationships and get to know all the OEM guys at Yamaha and Cat and Skidoo and Polaris, and a lot of neat people there and their marketing strategies. Understand that, but so I was 21, I think, or 2, and working at SOP, and the editor of Snow Tech magazine, they used to spend like 6 or 8 weeks in Island Park riding. They just ride every day, and they'd ride almost 10,000 miles. So they'd leave. They live in the Midwest, but they'd come out here and they would just ride as much as they could. And the OEMs did a lot of riding out here back then as well. And so one day we got invited, and they had a prototype Polaris RMK 800, and they let me ride it. And we went into Jefferson up in Island Park, and I was a pretty rookie rider at the time. I was not. I'd done a little bit of mountain riding, but not anything compared to what I've done now. And so I had a lot to learn. And this 800 RMK had way more capable than I did. So I climbed Jerry got stuck up there, and I thought, well, I feel bad he's stuck. I'm going to go up and I'm going to climb up into Jefferson, and I'm going to help him out. I climbed up next to him, and I thought, well, I'm just going to lock the brake and stop here. It's steep, but I'm sure it'll just stick, right? It's a long track. Well, it didn't stick, and it starts sliding down the hill backwards. And I'm giving it the throttle, and I'm giving it the brake at the same time. Don't know why. Apparently, I thought it was going to make a difference. Not sure what was going through my head. And I look over at Jerry as I start sliding down backwards, and he said, I just had the scariest look in my face, like, this is not going to end well. I'm on a prototype snowmobile. It's not mine. It's in magazines. I don't know these guys. I just met them. And here I am sliding backwards down the face of Jefferson. And long story short, it rolled over top of me, and I tried to hold on to it, and it rolled over top of me again, and it finally spit me out, and it rolled down the hill like 20 or 30 times. And it stops right at the feet of the editor, Kevin Bilkey, like right at his feet. And the windshield's blowing off, it's up on the hill. And I'm just thinking, crap, I'm done in the industry. It's over. I'm never going to get to do anything like this again. I'll never have I'm going to have a bad name. And all the bad things that go through your mind. Like, I just totally messed up. Right. And the editor, I do the walk of shame on the way down, and I get back dinner, and he goes, dude, that was the funniest thing I've ever seen. If I thought I could get you to do that again without wrecking it, I would have you go up there so I could get my camera out. Like, he was laughing his head off. Just thought it was the funniest thing. So that's how I started. That's how I met the editor of Snow Tech magazine. That's how I made a name for myself.
You just made a mistake and lands in front of him, and you're like, oh dang. Who was telling me that? Taylor Anderson did something similar. There was a company that came out, and he was doing Grizzly, so Grizzly Lodge up in BC. He took him out as a guide, and they said that these things have never been damaged, never been broken. These are bulletproof. Nobody can break them. And the dude bent them. The kid bent the crap out of him, and he did it. The guy that made him, invented him, was right there, watched him do it, speaks only French. And so he comes back to them, and he's like, oh crap. And the dude in French talks to his buddy that translates for him. He said something in French, and the guy comes back. He says, hey, do you want to test product for us?
That's how you open doors sometimes, right?
Yeah, exactly. He got an opportunity to start working at the company, and I was like, wow, that is fascinating. The things that you think that are going to be horrendous, it comes back to this. It extends back to the opportunities as individuals, enthusiast athletes, whatever you become, to get in front of the company and actually help them create a better product, help them advance their products. Feedback is so important in our industry, right? Even though the feedback on your case,
it's critical.
Yes. To roll down
it's hard to get good feedback.
You find that
really hard to get good feedback.
You find that even with your guys' products, you guys find that.
Yeah, because feedback it's work. you have to, I mean, you got to be able to communicate effectively. You need to be able to use some technical terms. You need to be able to describe things in detail. You need to be able to take the time to take notes, put the email together, take pictures. I mean, you have to stop doing what you're doing to give feedback. You have to stop the ride. You have to, you know what I mean? Like, it takes effort. And a lot of people are focused on writing or whatever the goal is at the time. And you have to kind of change your mindset a little bit. So we value those people that invest their time and effort into becoming, quality people who can give feedback. That's really valuable to us. Maybe not every company would say that, because I think any technically driven company would probably say that.
Dustin, this has been a lot of fun. I'm really enjoying our time. Off camera, we've had a long conversation, had some troubleshooting fun as well. Trying to get
technical errors.
Yeah. This has been awesome. And I really do appreciate your time. Was there anything else that you wanted to touch on? Something that I left out?
I think the only other thing that I would probably think is important, from a sponsorship perspective is, we didn't really talk about goal setting, or we didn't really talk about, putting a plan together, a strategy together. And for me, I think it's a little bit different for everybody when they decide what they want to do. And I've had the fortune to hear different athletes, either accidentally work into it or create a strategy. I've had people call and say, can we sit down? I'd like to hear what advice you have on creating my own brand. I've had people, tell me when their kids are going to become a professional athlete. I mean, there's all different types of stories of how they decide they want to become a sponsored athlete. And I think that's a really important part to learning how to work with a company is you need to be a goal setter. You need to have a strategy. You need to have a plan. You need to, you need to understand that that's part of the process. And for me, it was just as a kid, I just wanted to be in the industry. So every decision I made, if the door opened, I took it, right? It was kind of accidental. I always dreamed about being the kid working in having my photo in the magazine. That's like little kids do, right? And somehow I figured out a way to get there. And I always dreamed about working with athletes, and somehow I figured out a way to get there. And so, we all have those little things that motivate us, but I think I kind of get that question a lot, is like, what's the process to getting there? And it's very goal driven.
Yes. I had somebody from FXR on the show, and Andy was on the show, and he talked about how passion needs to be a big piece of it. If you're passionate enough to achieve it, or focus so much energy on it, you will get to your goal. You will get to exactly what you want. And you can study.
Motivator.
Exactly. Great motivator.
Yeah, that's the motivation.
There's some very fascinating individuals that have lived in the 30s, the 40s, the 50s. I mean, up till now, that each of them, or a lot of them, have talked about vision, like having an actual vision of your future, of what you want to achieve, and start putting it out there. So like even behind me, I've actually never talked about this, but behind me is a whiteboard that I write down quotes. I've got some visionary things on there, things that I want to achieve. I got my daughter over here, somebody that I want to see grow up and become a beautiful woman, even though she's a very beautiful 6-year-old. There's all these goals and visions that you have that you can look at on a daily basis and think about. So as long as you stay focused, thinking about it, you will start to manifest it. It might not be tomorrow, it might not be next week, but it will show up. Don't stop visioning, or don't stop setting your goal for it and keeping it as a vision. You become what you think of. You really do.
And what's interesting is to hear you say that, I had somebody tell me that a long time ago when I was starting to achieve some of the goals I'd set for myself. And I didn't realize that I had gone through that process. Nobody taught me that. I'd kind of accidentally done it. I'd lay in bed at night and think about how cool it would be to do this, or, do all the crazy things that kids do. But then as I started to get to be an adult, I would make my decisions based off of if it gave me a chance to achieve that goal. It might not have been a great chance, but I would take a chance, right? And so eventually you look back and you're like, I kind of manifested that. Like I made my thoughts directed my decisions that way. And I mean, it's real. It works. And so yeah, it's. I'm glad you said that. That's dead on.
Well, where same thing with you, dude. Same thing happened to me. I now am a full-time podcaster. It's something that I dreamed of doing 5 years ago, and I'm doing it today. So you just keep it in your mind and you focus on it. It's fascinating what the mind can do. We underutilize our minds way too much. It's unfortunate. So again, dude, this has been fun. This has been fantastic. What a great way to end. Such a great time. I believe we'll get together. Are you going to Heydays?
Absolutely. Yeah, we'll be there. Let's catch up and spend some time together. Have chat.
Absolutely. It's I was there last year, met a couple of cool people, and I'm looking forward to hanging out with guys like you over at Klim booth, poking fun at other people, Brant, and a couple other guys, right?
We've got some cool stuff coming for Heydays. It should be a good time.
Oh, good. You guys always have something fun going on. That's what I've really liked watching with Klim. Every time I show up to a booth or to a show, you guys have something fun. You've got that wall, right? At a lot of the events that you guys have done, the wall.
The Ninja Warrior course. Yeah.
Yeah. That was fun. What Heydays, I've seen pictures of it, but Heydays is always that big screen. So you have your trailer and then you have the giant screen and people can sit down and actually interact with the Klim athletes. So there's always something fun going on. And a little bit about actually that weekend, a buddy of mine was telling me a story that night. Remember those? Were you there last year?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So that night, Saturday night. You remember those blimps that were floating around? Somebody snagged one and was walking around.
I think I heard about that.
Yeah. And my buddy said he heard somebody, because he was sleeping in his trailer. He said he heard somebody at the door, like trying to open the door. And he was like, who the heck is trying to get into my trailer? And it was like 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. He's like, who the heck is trying to get in the trailer? And the sound went away. The person left. Come to find out the next day, one of his buddies grabbed one of those blimpies and was trying to put it into the trailer.
I did hear this story.
Yeah. I was like, oh my gosh.
I think there might have been some beverages involved in that whole scenario.
A couple. Yeah, there were some shenanigans. Every year they say there's some shenanigans that happen in that area. So Heydays is a good time. For those that haven't been out to Heydays, I'm going to be out there this year. I haven't got my ticket yet, but I'm going to be out there probably helping a couple individuals. I want to do some podcasting. So see if I can get a couple guys. It is. It's a great place to come sit down, get a couple guys on the show, talk about what's going on in life at the show, at the event. It's always a good time. I can't believe how big it is. It's incredibly
huge. It's like it's a state fair on steroids, man.
I was
just like 70 acres of swap meet. I think 70.
Yeah,
no quote me on that. It's a lot. Yeah,
you get a lot of things that you've never seen before. If you're like in the West and you go out there, you're a little surprised. It is stuff that you've heard of, like individuals that do these swaps, motor or snowmobile swaps and stuff. But when you actually witness it yourself, it's life-changing.
There's a little bit of everything from the redneck to the drag races that are crazy fast to, they do the freestyle show and you've got every OEM and manufacturer and aftermarket company there showing off their new products and people release stuff there and the snowcross. There's a lot going on. You really can't do all of it in a day. If you wanted to really take it all in, it's worth a drive. It's worth going.
It is. Absolutely. It is. That's cool, dude. Well, I'm looking forward to that. So we'll definitely meet up and have a good time hanging out.
Sure. Let's do it.
All right, Dustin, I'm going to let you go. Have a good night and we'll talk to you later, man.
Thanks a bunch, man. Appreciate it.
No problem. See ya.